For those looking to win a Rolex or to join the ranks of the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, the pathway has a new rung to work your way through. Welcome to the Sunshine State and to the first round of the IMSA Airbnb Endurance Challenge. Hi folks, Arjuna Kankipati, delighted to have your company here. On site as part of our commentary team, Joey Atterbury will be down in pit lane, but I'm joined in the booth by Joe Peak as our LMP3 cars roll out on track for the first of our 4 endurance races this season. Joe, a lot of these drivers have experience in the VP Challenge 45-minute sprint races. This is a slightly different endeavor with driver changes to bring into the mix as well.
Yeah, exactly, and a lot of the drivers had expressed interest in getting that experience, and what a place to start off that experience as well. Here at Sebring International Raceway, this 3.74-mile track is going to be a real test. They always say respect the bumps, and you're going to see a lot of those in Sunset Bend there to close off the lap as well as in Turn 1. But you get a good passing zone in Turn 7, hairpin turn, so a lot of drivers will be trying to be aggressive into there. Same thing into Turn 10, another place where you can often see them manage to get one in. However, Tower Turn, that's caused a lot of problems this weekend in racing with other series that we've had here. So keep an eye on that because it could be trouble. And let's not forget Le Mans. Important exit there onto the Ullman Straight. Everybody really needs to be on the throttle when they come out of that right-hander. And
such a historic track. We'll be back in a couple of weeks for the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, a 74th running of that historic race. Since 1952, only 1 year, 1974, have we not seen the 12-hour race. Of course, LMP3 cars will be joined by BMW M2 machines for our next round at the Circuit of the Americas, and that's going to make for multi-class racing. But for this first round, it is just a single class of competition, and 8 LMP3s. Let's quickly run you down through the starting lineup and qualifying drivers as well, who all take to the start and therefore have an important responsibility of handing the car over in one piece. It was Oscar Tuno in the Gebhard Motorsports number 1 that will lead us to the green after punching in the pole time, a 1:58.274. Alongside will be the Tony Driver Development 95 Lincoln Day in the yellow and red of those TDD. And in the Forte Racing 77 will line up alongside Garrett Groth. Forte Racing and Tony Driver Development on row 2 with Jake Williamson for Pinax's Zone 4 Racing and Farhan Siddiqui for Fast MD with Remstar behind them. Nicole Havrida and Matt Forbush, Shopify Racing and Forbush Performance round out our 8 machines as the drivers get their temperature into their tires. Those are the starting drivers though, and I mentioned, Joe, important job. Hand the car over in one piece to their second driver, who in many cases is the driver expected to maybe have a bit more pace and push the checkered flag.
Exactly. You want to end on that strong anchor, so the drivers have generally elected to do that. But, I mean, you look at the experience with many of the drivers here at the start, and I'd say you've got not just general racing experience, but a lot of them, as you mentioned, coming from the VP Racing Championship, where they drive this same car. So they're not coming in blind. I think this is going to be highly competitive.
Now, points will count for some of the drivers pulling double duty between IMSA Airbnb Endurance Challenge and the VP Sports Car Challenge. However, this is also a distinct championship, and some of these drivers, I'll take a Farhan Siddiqui as an example in that Fast MD with Remstar machine, paired up with a Jagger Jones, who is one of the most successful drivers in the VP Sports Car Challenge in LMP3. And one of the things that we've seen in VP competitions, Joe, is that driver coaches can often go out for the first practice session, get some data so that they can help the bronze driver improve. This is a great opportunity, though, for the bronze driver to get into a racing situation with their coach effectively, and that really helps speed through the development process.
Yeah, I mean, it's very one-to-one. They're both having to deal with the same conditions out there, and you can very much give that feedback. And they'll need to learn this as they go up the ranks, these bronze drivers, because you have to remember, in all endurance racing, one of the critical skills is being able to hop out and convey to your co-driver how the track is feeling, how the car is feeling, and that goes both ways. Be able to take that information and get into the cockpit and immediately be fast. So I really love what IMSA has done with this, giving them a great chance to get to experience endurance racing with these LMP3 cars.
And multi-class endurance racing for round 2 onwards, with the stateside introduction of the BMW M2 is, of course, such a popular racing class around Europe, specifically the Nordschleife. Very excited to see how they fare when we return to the Circuit of the Americas, where we were just last week for a round of the VP SportsCar Challenge. Some of these drivers were there. 2 lineups in particular that, though, Joe, I think we do have to keep an eye on, because the front row are the only 2 teams not entered into the Bronze Cup, which means the only 2 lineups where effectively made up with silver class drivers. Lots of conversation to be had about the FIA rating system and how that plays out. But Oscar Tuno paired with defending VP SportsCar Challenge LMP3 champion Valentino Catalano, and Lincoln Day paired up with Wyatt Brikacek, who just won both of the races at the Circuit of the Americas in the LMP3 class.
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, I mean, very strong out here, even though this is essentially a feeder series, growing talent, growing drivers, giving them opportunities. But that's just kind of the level that we've reached now in sports car racing, that you really can't have any weak links if you want to go out there and compete, and the teams are looking for those sorts of drivers. But as we follow behind the safety car here, the clock has started, we should note. So the race has officially started, even if we are not at race pace yet, but we should be going green this time by.
Absolutely. And one other thing we'll explain early is that we do have driver changes, of course, but our pit stops are going to be time limited, and everyone has to meet a 2-minute 30-second pit stop when you're changing tires, putting in fuel, or doing a driver change. What that does mean is there's a little less urgency, Joe, down on pit lane, and compared to the IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship, where they're trying to do a driver change in about 15 odd seconds, a little less pressure on our drivers here today.
Yeah, and that is a safety call, so that, again, they can learn the ropes of how all that will work, and make sure that everybody gets in and out without trying to rush through anything. But that said, there is still something to be said for being able to get that done efficiently, making sure that you've got all the work done before you're rushing out of the pit box. Give yourself time to double check everything before you're all suited up and get the go from the man at the front.
Already a nice little crowd here at Sebring for what has been a weekend. Joe, Joey, and a whole host of our USAC commentary crew working Ford Mustang Cup, Radical Cup competition, as well as various Porsche machinery racing around this famed racetrack. But for the first time, we're ready to go for the IMSA Airbnb Endurance Challenge. A bit of a preview of what to expect in a couple of weeks. The 74th running of the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring. At the front, Oscar Tuno in the Gebhard Motorsports Duquesne, ready to lead us to green, but alongside Tony Driver Development Lincoln Day in the Ligier JSP 325. 2 different engines, but 2 very similar cars on the front row. And now stacked up, just waiting for the drop of the green flag to put the hammer down here. Oh, good jump from the pole sitter Lincoln Day. Instantly, though, jumped between us in that Forte Racing 77 as we sweep up to the left-hander. Fast sweeper. Back around the outside, Lincoln Day is going to reclaim second position as they work up heavier braking zone at turn 3. But for the most part, single file as our drivers get into the rhythm early.
Yeah, Athena's was aggressive down into turn one, but couldn't quite get the job done. Great job there by Day to carry the momentum, help him get that spot back. Track position probably going to be relatively important because while they don't have the downforce that you see on the GTP cars in the WeatherTech series, they do offer a bit of an aero wake, so you want to have that clear track in front of you.
I said different engines on that front row. It's the only difference between the new and old gen of LMP3 featured in today's race. Half the field, the new gen, half the field, the older gen, which are still eligible through the end of 2026. Down towards the bumpy braking zone at turn 10. And already now starting to see the separations start to build. Ari Balog jumps in front of Jake Williamson in the fight for fourth position now. That will be second in the Bronze Cup points, let's not forget, as well as out through Tower Turn. The run up towards final sector of the track emerges, and at the front of the field it's building. But look at the pressure further behind now as Farhan Siddiqui looks.
Apologies for a slight technical hiccup, but we are well. Race with Tunho still leading up at the front, currently about 9/10 of a second over Lincoln Day as we get visual now coming out of Sunset Bend. 3 laps into this 2-hour race. And as we watch them cross the line, I do like what we're seeing. You know, a lot of times, Arjuna, in these endurance races, you'll see drivers get very aggressive at the start and then wind up throwing a lot away, but it seems like everybody has been very tempered, making sure they can at least get to the finish.
And I think that's reflected in the pace that we are seeing right now. 2-minute 1:258 last time by for our race leader, although closed down by Lincoln Day slightly out through turn 1. Aggressive from the Tony Driver Development, number 95. Qualifying pole, remember, was a 1:58.274. So yes, fuel load will play a part in that, but our driver is also not winding cars up too much by any means. Out through turn 7 with the famed Sebring 7 Hotel on the left. Great place to sit and watch the race, that's for sure. Already, though, look at the gap that they have built to what is the rest of the field being bronze drivers. That's by no means unexpected. Question will be, knock on wood, I don't want to trigger a commentator's curse here, Joe. If we do get a safety car about 70 minutes into this race, the likes of Jagger Jones in a great position to attack. Don't forget Patrick Kujala as well.
Oh, you may have already triggered it. The 87 is going very slow. Siddiqui with some sort of issue down at turn 7. Not sure what's causing it, but it looks like he is working on it as the car is still coasting. I can't tell if it's actually under power or if it's just rolling to a stop at this stage, but he's already lost a lot of time. This is not a good sign. I do know that some of the teams had lost a little bit of time in practice and expressed that they were a little bit behind the 8 ball trying to make up for some technical gremlins that they experienced for that.
Well, if you don't believe in a commentator's curse, I mentioned Jagger Jones, and immediately that specific car encounters some struggles. We'll see if it can limp the car back to pit lane and try and diagnose the issue on board. Big slipstream down in towards Sunset Bend, aggression shown. Are you really going to be able to force your way through this early in the race? On board with a Shopify racing car, just look at the wheel sawing back and forth as through the bumps, and beautifully done. First sports car start here in IMSA competition for Nicole Havredon, now up to 6th spot.
Yeah, she was talking to us about how it was a bit of an adjustment because she mostly has done single-seater stuff coming up through the ranks. And one of the things she mentioned is being off-center. She's not used to that, and I'd say she's adapted pretty quickly. That was a brave move into Sunset Bend. Even though it is a place that you can make an overtake, you really have to give and get some respect from your competitors to try and go side by side through there.
And the other thing is jumping in on the right side of the car, which I know this side of the pond is the awkward thing to do, although for me, having grown up in Singapore, it still feels correct seeing drivers on the right-hand side of that car. Lincoln Day does have the fastest lap of the race, 2:00.825. That was last time by, so that's one of the new spec Ligier JSP 325s. The only change is the drop-in of a twin-turbo 3.5-liter V6 from Toyota instead of a 5.6-liter naturally aspirated V8. So 2 very different power deliveries. The fight that we're looking at, 5th, 6th, and 7th positions, all in the older spec machines, if I remember correctly, with the exception of the Shopify car. Would be quite interesting at some point to maybe send Joey Atterbury down to talk to Travis Hill, who's not just driver, but also team owner, team manager at Shopify powered by Tooth Racing, to talk about the differences from their perspective, Joe, because I'm really curious. Is it just an engine change or is there something more?
Well, we did get a chance to chat with them yesterday, and yes, they are using some of the older spec, and they've been very curious to see the differences. They noted that I think some of the straight line speed towards the end of these long straights, there's a bit of an advantage on the newer engine, but otherwise, over the course of the race, that's really what matters in this one. And Matt Forbush has been racing in GTs a long time. He's another one that's newer to the prototype style racing. He's actually enjoying it a lot. He says he loves the downforce that they have. He's
been doing some racing in various GT4s, so now nice to be having a bit more ability to be aggressive through the corner. Just a quarter of a second at the front of the field as Lincoln Day, Oscar Tuno still setting the tempo as our only 2 non-Bronze Cup eligible lineup. So fighting well and truly at the front as expected. Back down to turn 7. I tell you what, this 3-way queue right now, you can't really afford to make a mistake, which is so easy to do at a track like this.
Exactly. Those bumps make it so tricky to try and get yourself consistent around the track. It does sound like Joey has caught up with the 87 crew. Joey, what's the story?
Yep, standing here with Remy, and exactly what's going on with the car.
Well, right now we just got radioed in by the driver that we had like a low pressure. It was very abrupt, but the car's still running, so just assessing now. It might be just a sensor. If that's the case, we're going to lose a lot of time, but we'll be able to get back on track. If not, we'll be able to see if it's more mechanical. But right now it's still rolling in. So most likely hope to be able to get back out there a bit later.
Has the car shown any problems this weekend?
No, not really. I mean, it's been pretty quick. You know, we've been pretty happy with it. But basically, good strategy. everything was pretty much on a, look up and see, but we're in good shape. Our pace was good, so this thing is definitely something that just throws, a little bit of curveball to us, but, we're gonna keep fighting.
Awesome. Overcoming some hurdles early on.
Always great to catch up with the team managers. We did see that Canadian Nicole Havridge slips through on Matt Forbush. This fight for 5th position is really, really enthralling. And now, see how she'll do with the look now in the rearview mirrors, or will she be able to pull away and slowly build up an advantage to those trying to chase her down?
It does feel like there's quite a bit of forward movement from Nicole in these early stages. Again, maybe a little bit of adaptation, getting used to things out here, and clearly quickly adapting. I mean, she's been definitely an up-and-coming driver, so I can see why, with her being able to make these overtakes and overcome maybe a less than desirable starting position up to the top 5. Next car for her, unfortunately, going to be another about 9 seconds up the road, it looks like. So it's a bit of a push from here, but we'll see. She's already made her way past. Like you said, if she starts to scoot away from them, I'm sure she'll make short work of cutting that down.
Yeah, chasing down Ari Balog, who's making his first IMSA start in a couple of years. Last time we saw him was in the 2023 Petit Le Mans when he was racing as part of the Tower Motorsports lineup in the LMP2 class alongside of Kiffin Simpson, Scott McLaughlin. He qualified the car in P5. Unfortunately, the car was involved in an unfortunate incident, sweeping out through turn 1. Another car, Pietro Fittipaldi, had gone off in front of him, and a tire had come loose, bouncing around the track, and, well, not really anywhere to go, and that was to be the end for him. But he's been a somewhat veteran of IMSA competition, dating all the way back to 2018, so great to see him back in the car, and only 6 seconds back of Brian Thenis, who is a veteran, to say the very least. Got word, by the way, from Joey Atterbury, Joe, which is just a sensor issue on that fast MD machine, so they'll replace it, send it back out, but now, unfortunately, 3 laps down.
Well, they always say if you're going to have problems in these long races, you want to have them early, but now they truly need some sort of safety car, but even still, 3 laps is probably not doable to make that one up. I am enjoying this battle that we're seeing between Forbush and Williamson for 6th and 7th. Williamson definitely keeping the 18 honest at this point, but needs to get a little bit closer to try and make an attack. At this stage, it seems like Forbush at least has him at arm's length.
Jake Williamson, who's been racing some radicals in Europe, co-founder of GP Lab with Danny Sufi, who we'll see racing in that car later on. And Danny had an interesting start to the season at Daytona, being at one point out front and then tangled up in all sorts of incidents, as seemed to be a case of who did not want to win that race from the lead. Meanwhile, already almost about 20 minutes complete in this first round of the IMSA Airbnb Endurance Challenge. What that means, Joe, is we're about halfway through the minimum drive time. Yes, much like in IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship competition, we have drive time rules. Minimum drive time, about 40 minutes, and you suspect some of the Bronze Cup eligible lineups may think about doing a driver change as soon as that window opens.
Indeed, but we do have to remember part of the strategy will come down to needing that minimum pit stop time out there. And I believe, let me double check because I had some notes on that. I want to say it was 2 minutes and 30, if I remember correctly. But that's quite a bit of time. That's more than a lap. So if you can wait until a caution flag, it'll probably be ideal for these drivers to give it a bit of time to see if they can take advantage of that, unless you really think you can make that much up swapping out the bronze.
Back up front, Lincoln Day, only a couple car lengths away in the white and purplish Tony Driver Development Ligier. Correct myself, at the start I said the yellow and red. That's going to be the one slightly further down the running order. Moscatuno goes defensive on the run up to turn 7, covers the middle of the track, and you can tell that in that Duquesne he is feeling the pressure slightly as we close on the 8th lap of this race being complete. Lincoln Day one way then the other. has just been showing himself in the mirrors and continuing to make his presence known. Wyatt Bricacek waiting in the wings. Have to wonder what's probably going through his perspective, as after winning both races at the Circuit of the Americas and the VP Sports Car Challenge, now has to share the car, Joe.
Indeed, and it sounds like we can get the thoughts of Wyatt. So why don't we head down to Joey and see how he's feeling, seeing his teammate on the attack.
Yeah, standing here with Wyatt Bricacek, and running good early on. How do you feel about the performance?
Yeah, so far Lincoln's doing an amazing job keeping pace with the leaders, and that's kind of our goal, is just to be up front and continue to be in a position to fight for the win later on. It's a really long race. It's 2 hours, so you don't have to make any big moves yet, but just keep with everyone and see where it goes in the next hour.
When do you think you'll be hopping in the car?
Yeah, so we can usually run about an hour of fuel on these cars, so right about the hour mark I'll be jumping in, taking over, and going to the end.
Back to you, Arjuna and Joe.
I'm enjoying this different perspective from my usual position down on pit lane with IMSA WeatherTech and Michelin Pilot competition. Nice to have Joey Atterbury, former competitor in IMSA competition, down on pit lane for us. Great chat there with Wyatt Bricacek as we ride down the Almond Straight. Got that great new bridge built on the exit of the turn 16 chicane, or complex I should say, and then under the bridge through Sunset Bend. I believe we're riding with our leader, Oscar Tuna, who's looking so smooth even with the pressure.
Yeah, the other reason you should probably be happy that you're not the one stuck on pit lane is it's 80 Fahrenheit and 81% humidity. It's been muggy this entire weekend, especially since we had so much rain yesterday. And I'm sure for the drivers, it's going to be exhausting by the end of these 2 hours.
Well, at least I saw that Joey isn't in a fire suit, which sounds like my forecast in 2 weeks' time is toasted. At the end of our 12 hours. 1.2 back at the front, so one small mistake and the gap opens up.
Yeah, great job by Tunho and all of this. When you're up in the lead, it's interesting dealing with that sort of pressure because some drivers are a little bit stronger being chased like that. Others find themselves having an easier time with a carrot in front of them. And I'm getting the sense that Tunho is quite good up here dealing with a driver like Day, breathing down his neck, because not only has he not really stepped wrong that we've seen so far, but he's also managing to pull a little bit of distance as we check back in between Forbush and Williamson. Still fighting for that sixth spot. Jake can't seem to find an opening yet.
No, but we are about halfway through the fuel run as well. If Wyatt says that these cars can go about an hour, then closing in on 30 minutes complete, these drivers probably also seeing the balance of the car shift, opening up the run onto the Almond Straight is the Pinaxis Zone 4 Duquesne, the white and purple car in the draft as now they run down towards Sunset Bend once again. The corner with a million different lines. Couple of them quicker than others, of course. Pop to the inside goes Jake Williamson, and he'll slingshot his way on through. Can Forbush cut back underneath? Not quite, but now a drag race up to turn one.
Ooh, he does get a good exit. I thought maybe he was going to have the speed. He's going to switch back over to look to the inside down into turn one. That is generally where you want to be, but he doesn't have the overlap. You could see him back out of that early, but it was a good try to try and snatch that one back. That run through Sunset Bend, the inside line isn't always the best place because there's so many more bumps down that inside, but it seems like Williamson dealt with it well, and now that he's been freed up, look at him take off.
We know that car should be quick. Danny Sufi has shown team's potential in the opening couple of rounds in the VP Sports Car Challenge. Remember, while yes, points do count towards the regular VP Sports Car Challenge season, there is a separate IMSA Airbnb Endurance Challenge Championship that all these teams and drivers will be focused on as well. And now with Farhan Siddiqui jumping back onto track, that's crucial. Endurance racing spirit at the end of the day, right, Joe? Yes, it's a short 4-round championship, but try and get as many points as you can on the board in this first round, even with the issues.
Yeah, exactly. And more than that, it's not just the points, but the experience, like you said before, getting some time in the car to work out any potential problems. We had a couple of our practices interrupted either by issues or by weather out there. So the teams really need this data, this information. You're always trying to collect data, and the more you've got, those are the more tools that you've got in your tool shed.
Well, you talked about weather. We had a sprinkling of that just before qualifying yesterday. And while, yes, it was mostly dry, there was still some wet patches around the track. And so the pole time of a 1:58.274, well, the last time the VP Sports Car Challenge was here was back in 2023. Pole time then from Bijoy Garg was a 1:56.8, albeit blown away by the pole time for LMP3 in Petit Le Mans, where Glenn Van Berlo put in a 1:55.215 in the Andretti Autosport LMP3. That was quite remarkable. But it goes to show that's another one of these challenges that these drivers have to deal with. Ari Baylog is going to have to start looking in the rearview mirror, I think, sooner rather than later, because the Shopify machine, which resplendent in the black and green, on the charge to say the least.
I was just noticing that as well. Haverda's got it from about 9 seconds down to 6. So, yeah, it's tightening up, and I have a feeling that if we continue on this trend, Nicole, if not on the attack before the pit stops, at least by the pit stops, they'll have an opportunity to maybe make a jump. And that was a good point that we heard from Joey's interview, that they also have to keep in mind the fuel, something they don't have to worry about in the 45-minute races.
Oh, you say that. We've had fuel miscalculations in the past. I'm sure some teams would prefer not to be reminded of that. Lincoln Day with a big mistake, by the way, on, I think, this lap, because he's lost 1.8 seconds alone, and now the lead up to 3 seconds. So Oscar Tuno in a much more comfortable spot. You know, for Nicole, I find this an interesting transition to go from open wheel machines, lightweight, nimble, into what, yes, is still downforce, but much heavier and going to be a lot more cumbersome in some of the weight transfers. Adapting very quickly. But, Joe, she only started karting back in 2019, which, 7 years now racing competitively, maybe not all of that professionally, you'd say, doing very, very well in her first sports car start.
Yeah, and she has done some GT racing in recent years as well, and some of that included team racing. So she is used to that aspect, but you're right. She's made quick work, and some of that comes, I think, from the fact that she's made sure that she's had plenty of open doors out there. One thing that is kind of unique is that her family is very Czech-based. In fact, most of her family is born over there. And because of that, even though she's born in Canada, she has dual citizenship. So she's been racing over in Europe as well as over here in North America and kind of double dipping. And I have to imagine that's really helped her get that experience.
More seat time is always important. No doubt about that. A little bit further back, jumping through as we run up towards turn 7 here. This is on board with the Forbush Performance 18. Matt Forbush himself at the wheel. He's sharing the car with IMSA veteran Tom Long. And so Forbush Performance, a team that we have seen with Tom in a couple of IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge starts here and there. But Tom Long brings with him almost 160 starts in Grand Am Sports Car Challenge competition, 40 podiums, 15 wins. It's a decorated career.
And Matt said that he's leaning heavily on Tom, that even though Matt's got his own experience racing by this point, that he knows there's a ton of expertise to be had there. So he's using him to help find that speed, to get acclimated to this car and this style of prototype racing. I'd say it's working out pretty decent so far. He's another team that also lacked a little bit of time out there on one of the practice sessions. I'm honestly more impressed with the way that Tom has been able to handle his, or excuse me, not Tom, but Matt has been able to handle his racing career. Because one thing I just learned this weekend, he has triplets He's racing 10-year-old boys, and I cannot fathom trying to juggle that and a racing career.
Yeah, that was in my notes as well. Triplet boys and girl dad as well. So knows how to navigate some of the chaos off the track. But someone else who's navigating plenty of chaos off track is part of that Shopify racing crew, Travis Hill, who's, of course, not just driver, but team manager, owner as well. Shopify Racing powered by Tooth. That is spelled out TWOTH. And the TH there stands for the two THs. And I hope that, Joe, we can go down and catch up with Joey soon, who's, I think, got Travis standing by.
Yes, it sounds like he does. Let's head off to Joey.
Standing here with Travis Hill, Nicole Haverda's co-driver. How do you feel about the performance through the weekend?
I mean, she's doing great. The whole concept for this was to bring more Canadian drivers into sports car racing here in the IMSA series, and she's showing her talents. She's done a lot of development over the years, and now the first time getting in that P3 car, she's getting at home, she's getting comfortable with the positioning inside that car, and as we can see, she's starting to really find some pace out there.
How is the car handling this weekend?
The new 325 Ligier has been awesome. I mean, it's a dream to bring it here to Sebring on the bumps. It's managing a lot better than the older chassis for us, and just getting sorted out with the setups and everything like that throughout the season. But it's been a great year for us to try to develop that car, and the more we go, the quicker we get. So all good, no complaints here.
Well, good luck out there, and we look forward to hopping in the car with you. See ya.
Thank you.
Back to you, Joe.
Well, glad that they're pretty confident at this point. I really think that backs up what we've been seeing on the track. By the way, it's now down to under 6 seconds. She continues to chip away. And I tell you what, Arjuna, she is not just doing well in general, but like she's got a personal best this last time by. So she's continuing to just up her game each and every lap.
And that's the improvement you want to see. Balance of the car shifts. Yes, the fuel load comes off, but tires are wearing. It is a muggy day at Sebring as well, which no doubt has an impact. Lincoln Dace found some speed, though. So after that mistake, 1:59.601, he's now got the fastest lap of the race once again. Slowly trimming time off that, as now officially 30 minutes complete. I believe that was a quick look at one of our photographers, Chris Green, part of Tony Driver Development. Shout out to Chris. Lots of great photos, as lots of the media team around this wonderful track, I'm sure, have been capturing from the weekend. At some point, sorry, go ahead, Joe.
I was going to say, and it's very picturesque right now. It started out with not a cloud in the sky, but we've now got quite a few big white fluffy ones up in the air, and we've already got the lovely palm trees around here, so I'm sure they're getting some incredible images to send off for after the race is over. I don't think these drivers too worried about that at this stage. You are right about Day continuing to find some pace over Tunho. I wonder if we'll see Oscar maybe respond to that, start to pick it up once his team lets him know.
Lincoln Day's relatively new to racing overall, but he's seemingly picking up quite fast. As part of that Tony Driver development squad, new team overall as well, doing a great job to find talent and nurture them. And now with someone like Wyatt Bricacek alongside, who brings with him so much experience, not just in prototypes, but even 3 starts in the WeatherTech SportsCar Championship, the endurance rounds, Watkins Glen, Indianapolis, and Petit Le Mans with Lone Star Racing. Yeah, not all of them went his way, may not have got the drive time that he wanted out on track, but that's valuable experience that he can bring to the team around him and to Lincoln as well. 2.6 seconds though. The gap between those two still very much back and forth. Neither driver has shown they've been able to establish a dominance over the other. On board with Ari Baylog in the second of those Tony Driver Ligiers as he runs back up to turn 7.
Yeah, and he's also responded to Haverda because the previous 2 laps, it was about 0.6 quicker, I believe, for him. This last one was a 1/10 quicker. So Nicole is still trying to put the pressure on, but Baylog is making sure that she doesn't get too much closer out there. I saw a lot of green actually on her timing and scoring that last time by, but that seems to have disappeared a little bit. So wonder if maybe a few of them were having a push lap and now are trying to settle in and think about strategy, since we're already more than a half hour into this thing.
Well, and you've in the modern world, I know a couple of these teams have had a chance to come here in various forms to test. Some even race in HSR, looking at Shopify Racing in particular, where they campaign not just the current gen on occasion, but the older gen Ligier quite regularly to get experience, get a bit more seat time, expose some various Canadian talent, including the two-time Radical Canadian Cup champion at the end of last year, getting a chance to jump behind the wheel of the LMP3 machine at Daytona. Come to a track like this, you may not have as much opportunity to test. Well, good thing is, got something like iRacing, and we've got an iRacing commentary booth together here, Joe. I just wanted to make a point of that. You, me, Joey as well, all very much familiar with iRacing, so it's quite cool to have.
It's been funny to see that we've all kind of come up the ranks now and found our way here onto physical racing. But I've been watching Ari, and at times it does look like there's a few corners he's struggling. I was trying to figure out if he meant to go as wide as he did through Sunset Bend, because it was a very wide entry. But that last lap, yeah, that did cost him a bit of time. It was about a tenth. So what Nicole had lost on the previous lap, she's made back up.
I talked about Ari's racing bona fides earlier, but he's got plenty of bona fides off the track as well. There seems to be something in the air about technology and racing coming together. You look at the likes of PJ Hyatt, success that he's had, the co-founder of GitHub. Now, of course, with AO Racing, so successful last year in the LMP2 category. Well, Ari was the former CTO of Airbnb and Yahoo, experienced at Google as well, where he led Google search, going back now almost a full 10 years or so. So great to see him back in the car after some time away from IMSA, yes, but he wasn't away from competition. He did still race in the Le Mans Cup last year over in Europe, alongside of his teammate in today's race, and effectively longtime teammate slash driver coach, Garrett Grist. And that's a good driver coach to have, a two-time winner of Petit Le Mans in the LMP3 class.
Yeah, in fact, I believe there was some connections with Joey's racing experience that they had competed together in the past, so they were kind of catching up on one another's careers since they last saw. As we jump back to Nicole now, ooh, look at the time difference. It's down to 5 seconds. This is going to be much quicker, I would assume. No, she still lost a tenth, but okay, now it updates to about 5.3 behind Ari. But man, what a back and forth we're seeing between these two.
And this is where the endurance of the drivers is going to start being tested, both physically and mentally as well. Joe talked about it being a hot and muggy day in these cars with the cockpit, no air to flow through the driver. It's a lot more physical than you would believe. And right around a sprint race distance now, it's about when your limits normally will have been start to be reached. So how much more do the drivers have to push? We're only, though, 90 seconds away from minimum drive time being met. So are we going to see any early takers? I think the answer to that one is no. If the car can only go about an hour on fuel, why would you risk potentially needing an extra trip down pit lane, given that this race, and I'm going to say it right now, has stayed green so far?
Yeah, we've at least only had the one issue with the 87, and that was a technical issue, so we haven't seen any offs yet, per se. I am impressed seeing with how tough it is to race around here. Already I've witnessed a number of little mistakes become big issues for so many drivers this weekend. So I think these competitors have taken that to heart and known, again, to finish first you must finish. So just keep the equipment clean. And more than that, the last thing that you want to do in a team race is to either hand off a broken car to your teammate or just not have a car to hand off. So get to that halfway point. That's job one, and then you'll see where the race goes from there.
Yeah, you want to make sure your other driver gets a chance to drive the car as you got to drive it at the start of your stint, if possible. The other factor with it being a team race isn't just the endurance element of it, is the fact that you make accommodations. Yes, in car setup, that's the most obvious one. Balance of the car, both drivers need to feel comfortable. But also in terms of seating position and things like that, it's not necessarily going to ever be perfect for just one driver. And so it's always something that will be a small factor that needs to be just considered is, if you're slightly less comfortable, but it makes your other driver slightly more comfortable, all those little things do come into play. Farhan Siddiqui back out on track, remember, after that sensor issue, getting the laps in the fast MD with Remstar number 87. He's got some traffic that's now catching him as they work up towards Tower Turn.
Yeah, and since they're so far out of this, they probably don't want to compromise anybody else's race. They've got a whole season to have to share the track with these other teams, so I'm sure they'll do the polite thing if they get caught up and allow them through. We did have, you were talking about the difference in the drivers and the seat and whatnot. We had an interesting conversation with Jagger Jones because as we were kind of catching up on how his career has gone, he was actually working on his seat, and we asked about it, and he mentioned that part of the issue is that, as I'll get back to that in a moment, we seem to have a slow car coming out of turn 3. Didn't catch who it was, but we'll see if we can get some information on that. But to finish, Jagger was just saying that he's a very tall and thin, so it's not just the height, but also the build of the driver that they have to worry about.
Gotcha. I was going to say, I'm pretty sure that was Lincoln Day, and yes, he's lost about 8 seconds in the first sector, and that comes after punching in yet another fastest lap, 1:59.190, about 4/10 quicker than Oscar Tuno in the race-leading Gebhard Motorsports #1 Duquesne. Lincoln Day just pushing a little bit too much, and that's where consistency, Joe, becomes a thing.
Absolutely. You might be quick over one lap, but races are won by putting together all the laps, which I know sounds silly, but we are so focused on speed in racing sometimes. You have to think big picture if you want to win races. And yeah, this is going to be a very good training ground for that, for many of these drivers coming up, though, especially the bronze drivers, to make sure that they can get the reps in, so to speak, and be able to just repeat it lap after lap, hit those marks.
Now the car back up to speed in Sector 2, so I'm going to just assume it was a slight mistake. Maybe out wide through Turn 1. It's so inviting and easy to go a bit too wide and push out onto the gravel. Loses a lot of momentum, loses a lot of time, and yeah, quick chat with Wyatt Brigacek thanks to Joey Atterbury. Just a little off, so Turn 1, not the first time, not the last time someone is going to have a small moment there. The other Tony Driver development car, by the way, the number 30, you were mentioning that Forbush Performance lost some time. Well, the number 30 lost some time in Practice 1 because of a blown tire and didn't get a chance, I think, to run any laps. So they are somewhat short on time as well, but not really causing too much of an issue with Baylog still only 10 seconds adrift of Brian Thenis, still with Nicole Havrida chasing in the Shopify Racing number 2.
Yeah, the gap's still sitting at about 6 seconds. The good news for Nicole is she really has been able to focus forward. Remember, she made those passes on Forbush and Williamson. She's put at least Williamson 8 seconds behind. Forbush having a few more problems. He's what looks like over 30 seconds behind her now at this stage. But she's made good use now that she's passed. It's just now that she's reached 5th place, it's hit a bit of a wall. We thought for a moment she was going to start to run down Ari, but he's done a good job making sure that she's going to have to work even harder. As we ride on board with him, he's going to be handing over the car, of course, a little bit later to Garrett Grist, as we mentioned, which should happen probably, I guess, in about 15 minutes or so.
I think so. We'll keep Joey Atterbury's eyes on pit lane peeled for all of that. Still can't believe, by the way, as we watch into turn 7, that they used to go all the way down, even deeper into the corner, as hands work quick there. It's just quite remarkable to consider the margin of error. There's lots of runoff now at turn 7, but go back even 30, 40 years ago, that margin of error, if your brakes had an issue, well, not really there. One issue and you're suddenly off on the road that surrounds the track. Back on board with the Shopify racing car. That's lost about a second or so. So once again, consistency, Joe. That's what we're seeing now as we see the cars probably with worn tires as well, really working hard.
Yeah, the car is going to be changing all throughout, not just because of the rubber being put down, the drivers were saying, with the different brands that are racing this weekend. The Michelin's kind of needed to get theirs laid on the track to start to really feel more of that grip. And I think that's going to help speed them up as well as the cars getting lighter. But like you said, you're starting to wear them out. You're getting the best out of them. So you have to be careful. And you had to make sure early that you took care of them so that that abuse didn't come back and bite you later on. As far as that turn 7 that you mentioned, my favorite story, and others have heard me beat this drum before, is that when it was changed in the late 90s to the current version, the drivers nicknamed it the safety pin. That might be one of my favorite turn names that I've heard in a while, and I feel like we should bring that back.
And what did our track map at the start have it listed as?
The hairpin, unfortunately.
Yeah,
a serviceable but boring name, if you ask me.
Let's bring back the, what was it, the pin?
The safety pin.
I think I like that. I like that. I'm just reading through some of the driver briefing notes, by the way, that were given to drivers and team managers. Just because I want to remind everyone of our pit stop rules as we head into the driver change portion of this race. About 13 minutes away from the top of the racing hour when expecting this LMP3 class to be out of fuel. 2 minutes 30, the minimum amount of time that you are going to need to spend if you are changing fuel, doing a driver change, or changing 4 tires. Now, what not included in that, of course, is things like changing a flat tire, doing damage repair. And so, Joe, that is becoming crucial when we head into the latter stages of the race. A little bit of small contact, maybe a safety car comes out, one car comes to pit lane. They won't have to sit there for the full 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Exactly. And I believe, if I remember correctly in the rules, they also cannot do tires and fuel at the same time. So yes, that plays into effect as well as we continue to ride on board with Nicole. Gap back up to 7 seconds. Ari really turning up the wick at this stage. Haven't seen much green lately, so I think our call a little bit earlier about the best of the tires being a little bit earlier in the race has really come to fruition. And now it's just holding on, making sure that you get to that pit stop. And like you said, consistency, continuing to use what you've got without over-driving the car.
I'm not sure if I'm reading this incorrectly. I think the air temperature's gone up slightly since we started this race. We don't have a track temperature reading, but I'll put 2 and 2 together and it's elementary to assume that likely increased slightly track temperature-wise as well. 2 minutes. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say I don't have it either, but yes, the sun has been very much beating down on the track, I can tell you here, so I am almost certain that it has been just going up and up and up.
And no cloud, shade rather. It may have been cloud cover earlier in the weekend, but no trees or anything outside of bridges that will shade the track heading into the pit stop window. Hopefully we'll try and grab a couple more drivers before they get into the car, Joe, because surely they'll be strapping on the helmet shortly.
Yeah, I think he's actually got Garrett Grist here. Joey, what's the story with Garrett?
Standing here with Garrett Grist, about to hop in the car. Ari's really turned it up recently.
Yeah, his end of stint pace is really good out there, so I think we'll be within 12, 13 seconds of P3, so see what we can do.
Is that something you work with, the handle on the car late in the race?
Yeah, you need to be good for an hour here, right? If you fire off for 2-3 laps, it doesn't matter if you're not good at the end of the stint. So,
well, we look forward to watching you get in the car. Good luck out there, Garrett. Back up to you, Arjuna.
Interesting. end of stint pace, not necessarily where you'd expect someone who hasn't necessarily been in the car too regularly to find the groove, but maybe just the seat time all coming together. Coming together for Lincoln Day as well, because what was a 9-second advantage, well, he's now managed to cut that by 1/3, down to 6 seconds off the race lead. Oscar Tuno last couple of laps, and that Duquesne struggling a little bit more with the maybe heat we're seeing right now.
Yeah, that could be. We have to remember that we're just about to the middle of the day here, so this is when the sun is right above us and really pounding down some of these drivers. You think to Nicole Haverda, coming from that open wheel experience, not used to being in an enclosed cockpit where everything is just heat soaking into you and you're sweating buckets, especially in this humidity. And that physicality can affect the drivers and their pace quite a bit. That's where training is so important. I've talked to drivers in the past who have said that they will, literally do their training wearing sweats, full gear, so that they get used to having to experience the harshest conditions. And it's not just, oh, well, I've lifted some weights and I'm in my shorts and a t-shirt and AC. No, they're outside with all the heat and trying to get themselves sweating and still have the mental focus in the heat of the moment.
What I'm hearing is that when I drive my sim rig with my full racing gear on, heat turned up, I am training like a professional.
There you go.
There we go. Just turn the sauna on and maybe a motion rig, and off we go. On board with one of the Gebhard machines. Not sure if this is Oscar Tunho that's now catching a little bit of traffic. Indeed, yes, it is. Got to say, love that we have on board through all of these LMP3 cars. That's the Forbush Performance 18. The only Ligier JSP 320, the older spec car with the naturally aspirated Nissan engine in it. I'm sure if you're at the track, you might actually be able to hear the difference. You might also see the headlight flashes as Tuno asks for permission to dive up the inside.
And he's going to let him through, so nice job by the 18. And dealing with this lap traffic, very much a skill. Is that the difference in drivers can mean you see an ebb and flow out on the race course. So while there might be a gap increasing now, as soon as they swap out, who knows, often that can switch around. It looks like we do have pictures back, so glad to be back with visual of our leader, Arjuna Tunho, getting ready to complete another one to hit on to lap 27.
I was just looking at tire sets, by the way, and digging through supplementary regulations. 5 tire sets, which basically means you have a set for each of the practices, a set for qualifying, and then 2 sets for the race, theoretically. Now, is that how they've divvied them up? Not quite sure, but maybe a set of slightly scrubbed in set of tires away down on pit lane. And why do I say scrubbed? Well, maybe just helps you get temperature into the tire that little bit quicker. It's been one of the storylines, and specifically the GT class in WeatherTech competition, a little bit in Pilot Challenge conversation as well. Down to 5 seconds at the front of the field. An update from Joey on pit lane. I think we're within 2 laps of our first takers to pit lane.
Okay, so we're about to see some of these teams get to experience some of the strategy of an endurance race now soon, and see how they handle that, see how the crew fares. And remember, they are not allowed to change tires and fuel at the same time. And they do have that minimum pit stop time, so that will alleviate that somewhat, but you still need to be smooth and efficient down on the lane.
And I think it's 3 crew members that you'll see working on the car. Doesn't include maybe the assistant that will help with the driver change themselves, but relatively small crew. The benefit, at least compared to what we see in Pilot Challenge competition, those have 5 lug nuts on the wheels. A lot more effort and chance for mistake from the pit crew. I believe these LMP3 cars are a little bit more simple for the crews. Yeah, single lug nuts, center lug nuts, and less chance for error, I would say.
Exactly, much more desirable. But I mean, you can see how small and cramped these cars are, though. And I think getting that driver change, hopefully they've been practicing it plenty up to this point, that getting in and out and getting the driver set up is going to be its own struggle out there. Not looking like they're coming in this time. Oscar continues out of Sunset Bend once more. But
First
from
speaker, pit lane, sorry Joe, it's Jake Williamson in that pin access zone for Duquesne, of course powered by Gebhardt, so it's going to be Danny Sufi, the first driver that's going to jump in.
Absolutely, so the number 11 team on their way, and they're going to take the early call, see whether or not that helps them out. Like I said, I think a yellow probably would be the way to go, but since it has been so clean so far, we've always said that luck is a bad strategy, so I feel like if you feel like you can make the undercut, I might as well go for it at this point.
The risk at a track like this as well is you are plenty of spots where a car can pull up. They're called orange overlaps in IMSA parlance. If the car pulls up there, it can be recovered without the intervention of the safety car. And I think that's kind of where we sit. With just 8 on track, it's maybe a situation where you can't rely on that luck because it's relatively low probabilities. Look how much open space there is on the left-hand side as you sweep out through the final complex at Sunset Bend. So inviting, but can run you into trouble fairly aggressively. Lincoln Day now 4.6 seconds. He continues to try and eat into the race lead, but it was just 100th of a second last time around. But still no one else down to the pit lane just yet. We believe, based on what Joey was saying, though, Tony driver development, so that will be Lincoln Day and Ari Baylog down to pit lane at the end of the 27th lap of the race.
And he's saying that Valentino Catalano, Oscar's teammate, is currently stretching, so he is imminently going to be hopping into the car himself. And I just heard Jake's car leaving his pit stall. So Williamson's teammate has switched out with him, and Danny is in, should be on his way out of the pits here shortly. Let's see what happens as Lincoln Day as well has brought the car in.
So Joey was correct. Expect Ari in too. These drivers have to remember to change the driver ID plug. It sounds simple, but it's one of those things in endurance racing. Danny's remembered to do that correctly. And yes, now scored as 2 laps down, but remember, 2 minutes 30, that's a mandatory minimum pit stop time. And there's no gamesmanship to be played. You can't slow down in the pit lane to try and meet the minimum stop time. No, it's going to be very simple, and the IMSA and USAC teams will keep it rather simple.
Sounds like Joey is down at Lincoln's pit stall. Joey, what do you see right now? Does it look nice and calm as the drivers swap out? We'll see if we can get Joey in a little bit. Might just still be keeping tabs on what's happening down there. And Thenis as well is now in, still waiting on our leader to pit in. We still need the 2 and the 18 team as well. Baylog has now come into pit lane, looks like.
I can hear the guns going off, so that's a good sign, at least, that we're getting some sort of signal down on pit lane now. The Shopify car stays out, and I like this. Nicole's in a rhythm right now, and getting a bit more seat time. Not a bad thing for her, but we are officially 1 hour complete in the opening round of the IMSA Airbnb Endurance Challenge as our LMP3s carve their way through the Sunshine State at the Sebring International Raceway. Top 2 yet to pit. See if Matt Forbush heads to pit lane this time by. But remember, no changing tires and doing fuel at the same time. There's a lot more intentionality about these pit stop sequences, as you were saying earlier, Joe, mainly in the effort of safety.
Exactly. Sounds like we might have Joey this time. He's actually with Lincoln now that he's out of the car. Joey, I'd love to hear his thoughts about that stint.
Standing here with Lincoln Day, you just got out of the car. How did it go for you in that stint?
I think it could have gone a little bit better. I had a few mistakes, but I'm very happy that we stayed in second place. I'm very happy that my teammate White is in the car now. He's very fast. Looking forward to see if we can get a first place here with him. And car felt great. This track started getting a little bit greasy, but that's just how things go here at Sebring.
Well, and we're here in Central Florida. How's the weather been inside the car?
Oh, it's been great. It's been absolutely it's been killing me. I got out of the car and I've been panning. I've been trying to stay awake kind of. So it gets pretty bad in there, especially when we don't have a drink bottle. So
great job out there, and we'll continue to watch you. Back to you, Arjuna.
Well, at least not sounding as in strife as Aston Martin drivers have sounded this weekend, but definitely not an easy stint for Lincoln Day. Now Wyatt Bricacek, double race winner at the Circuit of the Americas in the last round of the VP Sports Car Challenge. Now back in the car in the IMSA Airbnb Endurance Challenge with Oscar Tuno still out on track, yet to head to pit lane. Duquesne's got a magic fuel tank apparently.
Doing very good, not just fast, but light on the right foot. And we have to keep in mind that this is a brand new series. Yes, it carries over these cars from the VP Racing Challenge. It carries some of the same drivers, some of the same teammates and whatnot, but there are a few rules that are unique, such as the minimum pit stop time, and that can change strategy, that can change the complexion of how the race tends to unfold. So all these teams, all these drivers are learning with each and every lap how this all was going to play out, what is the optimum strategy. But the good thing for the impartial viewer is that means that we have some variables that could throw up some unknowns out there, and that we always love to be kept guessing because no one wants to know what the winner is going to be before the race even ends.
That car well and truly up to speed already. A little bit of a wiggle out through turn 16, Le Mans onto the Almond Straight, and as it bounces up and down on the run to Sunset Bend, right, Bricacek has got the bit between his teeth. And that car, remember, has the fastest lap of the race already with a 1:59.1. Oscar Tuno is now down in pit lane, and so the defending VP Sports Car Challenge champion, Valentino Catalano, is going to jump in. The German, the 20-year-old, takes over from the 30-year-old Colombian, Oscar Tuno, who's led from the drop of the green flag, has done a great job with all of the pressure that Lincoln Day was putting on.
Well, as we watch them circle their way around turn 3. You can see all the bumps that these cars are dealing with, so stiffly sprung. Probably makes it all the harder. I think we're still waiting on the 2 machine to pit in while Tunho takes his pit stop, and should be back out handing on over to Catalano here in just a moment. But they had built up such a lead. They're only just now losing that lead to Nicole. They really ran away with this thing.
Still out there on track as well. That's a long stint for the Shopify car. Oh, very, very squirrely on power down, as out of turn 7 we ride with Tom Long jumping back into IMSA competition, now in the Forbush Performance Ligier, with that 5.6 litre naturally aspirated V8 powering him through. Oscar Tunho, remember, 2-minute 30-second pit stop minimum time required as he hands over to Catalano, and the gap to Tony Driver development was about 6 seconds or so when we saw Lincoln Day dive the pit lane to hand over to Wyatt Bricacek. Bricacek, like I said, got a bit between his teeth. I'll be curious to see if the gap's going to start closing as we start to get towards that pit merge.
Exactly, so the difference in the strategies could make up a difference out on track, if you will. While we wait for Tunho to wrap that one up and cross the timing line to start that out lap. There it is, as Catalano now pops up on our timing and scoring and heads on through turn 1. And I think I just saw Bricacek go by me here in the booth, so I don't think he's going to get to him in time.
No, you are right. Looking at the dancing ants on the map, yes, the tires still may be coming up to temperature for the German, but he knows what this phase of the race is like in the Duquesne. We're watching the current leader, though. Great to see the Shopify Racing powered by Tooth, number 2, out front. And probably, you'd think, down to pit lane this time by. They have gone a full 30 laps on the gas tank. And indeed, yes, Nicole heads down to pit lane, and I'm hoping that means, Joe, we can catch up with Joey and see what a pit stop's like in the IMSA Airbnb Endurance Challenge.
Yeah, it sounds like we're heading down to him. He's going to give us a first-person view.
Yeah, Nicole has brought the car into pit lane. They have undone the belts. She is climbing out of the car right now. Fuel has yet to go in and be plugged in into the car. I see some tire changes going on right now on the front end, the left side, and now Travis Hill is climbing into that car. He'll be strapping up, the crew going around changing the rear tires, making sure that everything is ready to go. And now all it is Travis getting strapped in, making sure the belts are tight, the crew tightening up all of the tires, and they should have the car back going underway momentarily.
Love to hear that it's nice and smooth, that everybody's just executing as they're supposed to out there. That's exactly what you want, is no dramas. You want it to be quick in a normal situation, but with the minimum pit stop time, it is all down to everybody just getting their job done smoothly without any mistakes. And she'll hand the lead back to Catalano. The gap, is showing much lower, though. I just realized 2.1 seconds. Wasn't it about, I believe, 8 seconds before the pit stop started?
It was last lap 1:59.221 for Bricacek. He is, like I said, bit between the teeth, used the undercut to great effect. I do think that the older the Michelin tires underneath them were, the harder it was to put the power down. And let's see how quick this fight's going to develop between these two. Sniff of draft, is that enough for Bricacek? Meanwhile, Garrett Grist, he's 8 seconds in front of Danny Sufi, who has actually just put in the fastest lap of the race with a 1:58.970. Patrick Kuyala has just done a 1:59.280 as he's taken over from Brian Fiennes in the Forte Racing 77. We've got the quick drivers in now, Joe. Pedal to the metal for the final 51 minutes.
Absolutely, and the fresh tires don't hurt either, so this is awesome to see this suddenly pick up. And like you said, Danny taking that fastest lap of the race. I just heard Nicole fire up the, or not Nicole, but Travis fire up the car and head on out. So Hill should be showing up on our timing and scoring here in just a moment. Sounds like Farhan also out of pit lane as we got a car stopped. That looks like at the exit of 1.
We do, but we've got bigger drama than that as well. Stopped car, I think that might be Farhan Siddiqui in the 87. It is, remember, already laps down, but through the pit stop phase of the race, 2 crucial race control decisions. 2 cars, tire without crew drive-through penalty. It's the 1, the 18, Gebhard Motorsports, our race leader, and Forbush Performance in 7th. Oh, this is going to gift Wyatt Brikacek and Tony Driver Development the lead of this race as Catalano dives to pit lane.
And Catalano, now is that to serve the penalty? Because I guess we don't have yellow yet, so this could work out for them. This is just a drive-through. Unfortunately, they are going to lose that lead to the 95, and then the car 18 with Long. Tom is going to have to try and do that quickly. He's already a lap down, so that's just making a bad day a little bit worse for them. We'll see if we can find out whether or not Siddiqui's car can get rolling. Remember, they did have that sensor issue a little bit earlier, Arjuna, so I wonder if that's re-emerging.
It's not an easy day for the Fast MD crew. Haven't even seen Jagger Jones jump in, but I think what they're really doing is maximizing Farhan's driver time, giving him the experience, and then Jagger will get in maybe just for the minimum to get them to the end. Now that Catalano has exited pit lane, 30 seconds back as we are under full course yellow, well, you can blame the curse of the commentator for us talking about it earlier, but we knew that if the field got bunched up in the second hour of the race after the driver changes, it would be feisty. And now, Brikacek leads, Catalano will be second, Kuyala, Gris, Sufi, Hill, always squabbling as we get the race back underway with probably 40-ish minutes to go.
This changes everything, as they say, and Catalano going to have to fight his way back to the front. I guess it works out that he was able to serve that penalty before that yellow came out, because now it's going to bring him right to the back of Brikacek and allow him to try and fight. And as we saw, their co-drivers were very close on pace in the first half. What's it going to look like between the two of them on this restart?
Yeah, wise call from an experienced Gebhard crew, a team that actually founded back in the 1980s. Yes, they didn't run from 1999 through to just a handful of years ago, but a long lineage, to say the least. On board with Grist, remember, double Petit Le Mans class winner in these LMP3 machines. Finished second as well on another occasion alongside of his teammate Ari Baylog, so expect him to be one to push the pace potentially at the front of this field. There is the reason we are under safety car, though. It's the stricken Fast MD with Remstar 87 Duquesne. And Joey's just let us know that it's not the same sensor issue. The team's not quite sure what's going on here.
Yeah, we never want to get a shrug of the shoulders when we're trying to figure out what's going on, especially the team. But that's just the nature of racing, especially when you're live in the race. You just can't always figure it all out. As the safety crews attend to the car stopped there on the exit of pit lane. And walking away, looks like, yeah, a little bit of a disappointed Farhan. And I have to imagine he'll at least be glad to hop into some air conditioning after being stuck in that machine at the back of the pack for the first hour.
Does not seem like an easy hour or so of driving in these warm, humid conditions, although humidity dropped off slightly. Yeah, Joey's just let us know that the drivers look beat getting out of their cars. Kind of reminds me of what Romain Grosjean looks like getting out of the Lamborghini SC63 last year at Watkins Glen. Those images that, of course, went viral on social media, pouring water over his head. Air conditioning system in that car failed, apparently, I guess, on the day. And so those are the more difficult situations, I think, in many ways, Joe, when you expect to have the assistance of a cool suit of air conditioning, and then suddenly you don't.
Yeah, and Joey brings up a good point as he continues to send us some information down on pit lane. It's not super hot. It's 81 Fahrenheit. But the high humidity is the killer. You know, everybody says, oh, well, but it's a dry heat. And I know that's a bit of a joke, but when you're racing, very much so. I've been in situations where it's been 70 degrees out, but 100% humidity, and we're all just sweating buckets sitting outside. So yeah, the humidity makes such a huge difference in driver comfort out there because there's nowhere for that heat to go. It's all just kind of wet and miserable inside the cockpit.
You can see the flatbed being pulled out, so at least 2 more laps, I would assume, as our hard-working crew recovers that car. Will leave us with 7 and 1 car a lap down, Tom Long in that Forbush Performance machine. I don't know if I saw them dive to pit lane to also serve the penalty.
I don't believe they did.
Yeah, I see only the number 1, so they will lose a bit more time regardless of anything when we get back underway. I have no idea what to expect now, Joe, because with the credentials of our top 6 or so that are all on the lead lap, very, very talented race car drivers who are now going to be packed up and shot off to turn number 1.
Yes, I mean, it's almost like we're getting 2 races here. Granted, this is going to be a shorter leg, which is going to impress even more, because now you have to remember, we talked about holding onto the tires. Well, that's however many fewer laps, at least, about 15 minutes fewer laps on them, the way that this is looking, that they can try and push them that much more. And that's what everybody loves to see, is the drivers going at 10 tenths, trying to wring the best out of them. And with this being a standard sort of spec class with those LMP3s, everybody's in the same machinery. It truly will be down to the driver themselves who can make the difference inside that car.
As we mentioned earlier, the 2 generations of LMP3 cars eligible for this year's IMSA Airbnb Endurance Challenge. The only difference between them is really the engine. In the new generation, the new generation was only needed because the engine was going out of production, and so a new engine thrown into the car. Obviously, that meant a couple of chassis modifications. You can't just throw an engine in. Have to adapt the mounting points throughout the water and oil circuits, specifically the turbocharger air circuit in the case of the twin-turbo 3.5-liter V6 that got put into these new generation LMP3 cars. But a lot of the drivers have experience in both. Duquesne, for example, that Gebhard Motorsports, Valentino Catalano, Oscar Tuno Share sitting in second right now. They both race the new generation car, although they're running the older generation car over here in America. And just understanding those small differences, it might take you half a session or so, Joe, but once you've got back up to speed, it's just like jumping on a bike.
It's a good way of putting it, yeah, and hopefully should be a pretty quick adapt for most of them here. And we keep talking about this heat. The other thing, Joey always, as him being the former racer between the two of us, since I haven't had the pleasure of actually getting into one of these cars, he always tells me that it's the most miserable in these hot conditions when there is a caution. Now you no longer have other things to focus on. The adrenaline isn't pumping as hard that you can have something else happening out there. Now all you're doing is trundling along at 40, 50 miles per hour, and you're stuck in a hot car following the safety car. So this hopefully with all the, like you said, the top class drivers, hopefully they'll be able to handle it well, but they're certainly not starting out in the most enjoyable way.
No, but where are we going next? Circuit of the Americas, Texas, in the middle of May. Are we expecting that to be any better?
Oh, I've been there in the middle of May, and it's usually not fun. I can tell you, even in the commentary booth, there was a couple years they were not turning the AC on for us even. Yeah, so Man, yeah, Texas in May is rough. It's a bit of a crapshoot. Sometimes you can get lucky with some cooler weekends, so the drivers will hope that Mother Nature is smiling upon them, but don't bank on it would be my advice.
The Tooth Autosport team, by the way, do some great content on YouTube, not just featuring the drivers, also featuring some of their team engineers. Rowan specifically features heavily in some of the most recent content that I was flicking through, but they were just capturing a quick interview with Nicole for, I'm sure, some more upcoming content. But Joe, I think we've got her now. Joey down on pit lane, ready to chat with her.
Yeah, let's throw to Joey, because she's actually working on a documentary from what I understand, Joey.
Yeah, standing here with Nicole Haverda. How did everything go? And I noticed you also have your documentary crew out here.
Yeah, no, it was really good. It was a good first IMSA Endurance race. I've done a few other endurance stuff, but coming from sprint, this is very different. And no, it was really good. First, starting the race it's so much fun. You have all the adrenaline rush and all that. So yeah, going into, passing past 2 cars, which was nice, then 2 others kind of didn't finish. So no, it was really good, and then passing the car over to my co-driver, Travis, and then now he's doing good jobs. So yeah, it's good to be out here with Shopify Racing. It's cool to be, in IMSA.
Now we are under full course yellow. How was the car throughout the entire stint, and do you have the confidence that Travis can just drive it straight to the front?
Yeah, no, he'll definitely drive it forwards. That's the goal. Like us drivers, we all want to win. So no, the confidence in the car was good. Near the end, of course, like you got tire wear, so you're constantly thinking about tires, fuel, which, coming from sprint stuff, I'm like, think about that stuff. I'm like, oh, that's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of buttons on this thing. So no, it was good. It was good to talk. The team is so helpful. They just keep telling me stuff. So I have like a spotter telling me every corner, like how it is, what I'm doing, always like fuel stuff. So no, we got a good setup, and it was a good run for me.
Try to get a little bit of insider knowledge. Is the car maybe really good on one section of the racetrack and struggling on another, or where is it really hooked up?
Yeah, you're going deep into that. No, it was good at the start. The start was really good, and then when you get the tire wear, you start to get the oversteer. Into 7, if you hit the bumps wrong, you're constantly thinking about like under the brakes. The bumps are quite bad into 7, and then you got 1 the last corner, and you're constantly thinking about like where am I positioned car? Do I want to brake earlier and then carry more speed? And then try not to wear the car out too much, because I am handing it over to my co-driver. So I want to give him the best car I can so he can go finish off good.
Well, you did a fantastic job out there. Great job, Nicole.
Thank you.
Back to you, Arjuna.
Always appreciate the chat. So Joey's getting his steps and exercise in for the day down on the warm pit lane at Sebring. Just under 40 minutes now left on the clock. The pits have been opened for all cars, which I think is probably the sign, Joe, that may go racing next time around, as in lights will go off on the safety car when we cross the line.
I wonder, too, if that maybe involved that pit exit, because he was right by there. I wasn't sure how much he was kind of covering it up, and with them having to extract that car, I wonder if maybe the call was made to say, that don't come into the pits right now, because we're trying to just kind of get things open for you guys. But regardless, they are now open if anybody did need to take that pit stop. But we have a change to the lead. We have everybody packed back up. And yes, lights are out on the safety car. So we're going to get going with what is effectively a 37-minute sprint.
And crucially, lap traffic between Wyatt Bricacek and Valentino Catalano. That's Tom Long in that Forbush Performance number 18. Going to be very curious to see what happens here as the 7 remaining LMP3 cars are ready to battle. Unfortunately, Farhan Siddiqui, looks like that's the end for Fast MD with Remstar. We won't see Jagger Jones tied with Bijoy Garg and Valentino Catalano with 8 wins in the VP Sports Car Challenge LMP3 class. Pace car off and away. Wyatt Bricacek on the throttle, gets us back going, and look at the gap that he's got, not just to Tom Long, but crucially to that bright red of Valentino Catalano. On the offense, Garrett Griss in the yellow and red to the outside, and Tony Driver Development roar up to 3rd.
Oh, it was close, though. Not sure if they're completely by. They're going to be side by side coming down into turn 3, and not only does he not get the spot, but he's under attack. He might lose one instead.
Danny Sufi puts his nose up the inside as they squeeze out through turn 5 and in towards the big pen, and now power down, run up to turn 7, and look at the gap that they've now lost to those in front of them. One decision, how quickly things can shift around. On the outside, the Finn, Patrick Kujala tries to attack on Valentino Catalano, but the German is still stuck behind Tom, who's not slow by any means. And meanwhile, Wyatt Brigacek now almost 2 seconds clear up front.
I thought Catalano was going to be on the front foot here trying to attack on Brigacek. Oh, and he gets awful close to the rear of the car. You don't want to make contact there. Almost looking at too wide down through Collier. That is always a risky endeavor, but he just plants the car right in the middle to try and fend off Patrick. Patrick gets the better exit out of Tower Corner. Does he have enough to try and take the inside into Jean Bien? No, it looks like he'll pull out of it through Bishop.
Patrick's such a decorated racer, mainly in Europe, also over in Britain, but on the few occasions that we've seen him stateside, specifically in things like Lamborghinis, he has really shown what he can do. Wyatt Brigacek has used the gap that he had with the lap traffic to great effect, to not even be challenged on this opening lap of the hopeful sprint to the end. Oh, Catalano saw his chance through Sunset Bend to dispatch of the traffic. Now can Patrick do so as well? Tom Long down to pit lane to serve that drive-through penalty.
We had lost sight of that one, but Tom didn't, thankfully, and well, there goes that battle, and that brings Catalano back up to the 4. But you mentioned Patrick and his pedigree. Yeah, clearly he's fighting for that win. Another slow exit coming off of turn 1 this time. Kujala, just gets right up underneath him down at the apex of turn 2, although I think he took a little bit too much curb. And now Grist is on the back of him. It is a back and forth, a constant dynamic between our top 3.
Here comes the Canadian. The time lost now regained once again. Thought about the look to the inside, but Kujala covers him off. Now slightly tight. Not able to put the power down as Grist as he washes off the apex. Final 30 minutes of this race. It is going to be a sprint, but maybe just for second, as now 4 seconds at the front of the field for Wyatt Brigacek leading the race, the young 25-year-old. Paired up, of course, with Lincoln Day, whose slight mistake through turn 3, well, helped firstly by the drive-through penalty for Gebhard Motorsports, and now additionally by the pace at the outset of the restart. I feel like you've got to watch out for Danny Sufi here at the tail end of this, because he's quick as well. Travis Hill's not far off too.
Yeah, one of the team members talking to us yesterday said a phrase that I think it's going to be important. Ooh, that was a big moment there for Pat coming out into Le Mans. But he said, you got to get the basics right. You can't beat yourself. And I think that's what we're seeing here. Tom Long had an excellent opportunity, or Tom's team rather had an excellent opportunity, and that little basic mistake of not keeping track of the tires during the pit stop has been super costly. They need a caution to get back in this hunt.
Where will it come from? Maybe another technical issue, but again, orange overlap. Unfortunately, Farhan Siddiqui unable to find one of those areas. On board with Grist in that yellow and red Tony Driver Development number 30, out through turn 1. Covered off by Kujala just in front. Slight snatch of one of the tires as they work through the braking zone. A couple of different lines being taken from the drivers as well. Oh, awkward there from Grist as he gets the power down.
Yeah, I saw that snap as well. Grist maybe dealing with a lot of that aero, both cars in front, not giving him a lane to get the downforce, but coming into turn 7, Brigacek still ahead of Catalano with the number 77, now under threat, or excuse me, the 30 now under threat with Sufi there in the number 11, starting to make this a little bit of a battle.
Travis Hill lost a bit more time last lap around. See how he's able to hold on in the number 2, the Ligier JSP 325. Catalano doing a great job, even with the pressure, to run his own race. Tied with Jagger Jones, Bijoy Garg with 8 race wins. But Valentino Catalano may be one of the most decorated in VP Sports Car Championship prototype running in the 3 full years of competition since the inaugural season back in 2023. 12 podiums, 8 pole positions in his 14 start, and of course last year's champion in the Gebhard Motorsports machine. And great to see him back in and paired up with Oscar Tuno as he makes his charge at the championship. There goes our race leader, or rather his race leader's teammate, Garrett Griss, in that middle of the pack.
I have to remember that this is for seconds that all these cars are fighting for. Bricacek there up at the front, kind of scooting away from everybody with the distraction that these have had. Catalano with Pat still hot on his heels down into turn 3. Each and every time he gets right on top of him, I think that 77 is just a little stronger down to the apex.
And then off the corner, maybe this is where we're seeing the difference between the new generation and old generation. The top end grunt just helping Catalano hold on to that advantage once again, out wide from Garrett Grist. Not quite wide enough to enable Danny Sufi to try and pop alongside the young 22-year-old who's been racing both in the US and also across the pond in Europe as well. A lot of these drivers, especially the younger ones, balanced programs, Joe, where they are crisscrossing the globe, racing multiple different machinery, and goes back to the point we were making earlier, helping them build that experience.
I think experience is such a huge thing in racing, especially in sports car racing. The knowledge that you can rely on to fall back on when things get heated like that, the instinct that you don't have to think about it. You've got all of that just tucked into your brain, and you can react in these moments. It can be such an advantage over your competitors. But for the first time, we're starting to see a little bit of distance between this group. I wonder if it'll calm down a little bit for maybe a push later on, as we got a car off, and that is Hill out of Le Mans. Did he touch anything? Because I don't see damage right now. I think he might be okay.
Yeah, the way there's many tire marks, are hard to judge which ones are his, but I think he's okay, just waiting for Tom Long to sweep through. Right rear is the point of interest. A little bit loose maybe, but no, I think that's all okay. Maybe just a little bit too aggressive on throttle, and turn 16 bites.
Number 2 team, unfortunately, falling backwards after such a strong start to this one. And that's going to set them on the back foot even more as we follow them down into turn 7, still fighting for second place. Man, this 95 team has been fantastic, because despite not being able to lead the first half of the race, they've played it so perfectly here at the end, and now they're grabbing it with both hands, because it's up to 6.3 seconds ahead of this huge battle. I'd say that this is their race to lose at this stage.
And an up-and-coming team looking to develop their drivers as well, as the name implies. Tony, driver development. Nathan Tony, the team owner, strategist and engineer for Into Europol. But this team initially started running open wheel machinery in 2024 and slowly growing their sports car program here in the VP Challenge, which is kind of the intention, not just to enable drivers to develop, but teams as well. Kind of what we're looking to see from Shopify Racing in the long term. Travis Hill has said that the combination of the VP Sports Car Challenge and Airbnb Endurance Challenge, it very much replicates a mini WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. It gives them an opportunity to get experience as a team, all in the hopes of eventually making it to the grid for the Rolex 24 with a full season entry in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. So going to be exciting to see how our teams go. There's a great run out of turn 1 for Garrett Grist. Not quite squeezed onto the grass in the Tony driver development number 30, but Patrick Kuyula slams the door shut out through turn 3. Oh, no nonsense driving there.
I was going to say they have really upped the intensity here at this stage of the race. That he left him just enough. There was nothing untoward in that. He gave him a lane, but he made him think twice, and you never really want to be entering the corner that shallow, so he really forced him out of it in that way. And it once again allows Danny in the 11 to catch back up to them, while Catalano starts to get himself some breathing space up in front. Is it now a battle for third instead of second, as once again Gris just hovers behind the fin?
Yeah, I think you are right that Catalano just has enough breathing room right now. Last handful of laps has not been covering a move from Kujala with as much frequency. Not quite totally clear though, as now 25-ish minutes left to go. We're on the 41st lap of this race. Probably have another 12 or so left in this opening round here at Sebring for the Airbnb Endurance Challenge. Round 2 will take us, as mentioned earlier, to the Circuit of the Americas in the middle of May. That will be exciting to see how our drivers go there. Of course, they have some experience at that track, having just raced last week there in the VP Sports Car Challenge.
Yeah, everybody that has managed to put tires to pavement there is going to have a nice little advantage with all kinds of info and data to help them out. By the way, we did hear from Joey that she talked to the 2 team, and apparently car just had a loose moment out of turn 16, hence the spin. But that's not what they were hoping for as we continue to follow. This time, not as much of a squeeze down into the corner, maybe waiting for a run out of turn 5. If I was in that yellow car, that's where I would try to aim for. Oh, but he's wide, almost opens the door, and Danny just about snuck past.
I think that's the issue, is that Danny Sufi is looking hungry behind him as well. That car with 2 different looks, the purple on the left-hand side, the orange on the right-hand side. The zone Pinaxis Zone 4 Racing, powered by Gebhardt machine. Curious, Joe, if you look out the window right now, what are you seeing? Because Joey's just said clouds are changing.
Yes, and the main area of interest is basically if you're heading down the front straight, what the drivers see past turn 1, because that's where the weather's been coming from. And yesterday we had a very similar situation to this. It was bright and sunny, I mean literally within minutes, and suddenly we get little bits of raindrops, and then it was chucking down, which you kind of sometimes get in some of these tropical climates. And it looks quite similar to that, with a lot of clouds starting to form. I'll check the weather to see what the predictions are, because we only have these 22 minutes left to go, but kind of hoping we don't have another wrench thrown at our teams.
I'm just hoping that we're getting the rain out of our system this weekend. As much as I know you and Joey are having to deal with some warm and sometimes humid weather, if it means that down on pit lane in a couple of weeks in my fire suit that I'll be a lot more comfortable, I won't complain about that. I'll say I'm just looking at the radar on my weather app. I'm unfortunately not on site, quite comfortable at home right now. I'm not seeing anything on radar in terms of big winds and cloud shifts, so maybe curious to see how that develops.
Yeah,
toward turn 3, sorry.
It's okay. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything either predicted, at least not until a little bit later today. So hopefully we are clear of it. As far as the wind goes, Joey is saying it's picking up, but I'm looking at the flag right in front of me, and it's looking very gentle on that currently.
These are cars that will be impacted by the wind. There is no question about that. They are aerodynamic machines. Just before this, there was Radical Cup competition, which was Danny Sufi a little bit out of sorts, trying to put the power down out of turn 7. If that's the introduction, radical sort of racing to slicks and wings, as Tom Jura explained it to me once, but these are then the step beyond that, right? Ligier has a couple of different prototype offerings. Step up to the LMP3 once you work your way through some of those entry-level ones. Beyond this, Joe, where do you go? You go to a P2 car, and then if you're talented enough, manufacturer signs you up as a factory driver. Tom Long can tell you all about that from his days as a Mazda prototype driver, and you make it to the prototype class of the Rolex 24.
Exactly. And again, this is what I love to see is various series and manufacturers offering opportunities to kind of take it step by step, work your way up. A lot of sports will have, you know, their AAA, their minors up to the major leagues. Racing is not as organized as that usually, but they're starting to become that organization where there's more an official path that you can try to take to prove that you're ready to get up to the big time.
Note for my timing, by the way, as we ride with Sufi, lost a bit more ground to Grist. We now jump on board with. Tries to get back underneath of Kuyula in the Forte Racing 77. Once again, covered off. Good defensive driving here. Jagger Jones has returned to the track in the Fast MD 87, so great to see him get a couple of laps under his belt and maybe shake down the car, maybe diagnosing the issue that brought out what to date has been the sole safety car intervention in the opening round of the IMSA Airbnb Endurance Challenge. Why? PRIX check, 7.2 seconds clear. Yes, maybe assisted by traffic on the restart, but he's pulled away to great effect. Kuyula also squirrely through 7, and here comes the run from the Canadian Garrett Grist.
Corner exits seem to be the strength of this bright yellow number 30, and it's forcing a lot of defensive moves on corner entry from the Finn. He's so far pretty successful in holding him back, but this is really not desirable because he's constantly compromising his racing line. That's slowing both of them down, and I'm starting to sense a little bit of frustration building up in the cockpit of Grist. He's getting such good runs, but he just can't take them anywhere.
Tell you what, if the wind's picking up, it's not slowing these cars down, because personal best after personal best coming in from some of the front runners. Catalano's pulled away with a 1:58.927 last time by. That was his fastest lap of the race. Tom Long also going quick. Travis Hill setting a personal best as well. And Jagger Jones, one of the fastest laps of the race. Back on board, though, in the fight for what is now the third and final step on the podium. Pushed out wide slightly is Grist, as Tony Driver Development try and hunt down what would be a double podium here in the opening round of the season.
We said it was the basics that you needed to work on, and unfortunately for that 87 team, Joey is saying it was lug nut issues that took them out. So again, you got to, whoa, as there was a big lockup from Kuyula, and he keeps it on the track, but as hard as he's been defending, I wonder if he's taken some of the best out of those tires.
And now does he have a flat spot, which around a track like this, the vibrations will be so uncomfortable. Still clear up to turn 7. These are two identical Ligier JS P325s. The only difference in setup, the team has thrown onto the car, and slight differences maybe as they rolled off the factory as well. Back up towards turn 10 in Cunningham, which in my opinion, one of the bumpiest of the braking zones of the track. Kuyula, after the slight moment, settles down quite nicely. 17 minutes left to go, pressure starting to build.
That's a lot of laps to try and continue to defend. So yeah, he needs to build up this buffer a little bit, to not have himself constantly be going offline to try and defend. If he can just really look forward, focus on his marks rather than constantly trying to watch those mirrors, that will help tremendously. And it looks like, yeah, like you said, he's starting to really get it under control at this stage. Maybe thinking about Catalano up ahead of him. He's still on the podium, is Kuyula, but it's going to be nip and tuck here at the end, and they still can't afford to give up too much to Danny Sufi there back in the 11, because no doubt he will be trying to capitalize on them being distracted.
After this, at the track, there is a couple more series, including Ford Mustang Cup, Porsche Endurance Challenge, and Radical Cup North America action. It's just as busy as it's going to be in a couple of weeks' time for the 74th running of the 12 Hours of Sebring. Not just, of course, the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship will have our Pilot Challenge cars, but so will we have 3 of our single-make machinery. The Lamborghini Super Trofeos, joined by Porsche Carrera Cup North America, debuting the new 992.2 generation Cup car, and the returning Mustang Challenge. I really do love the ladder that's being built, not just through things like the IMSA Airbnb Endurance Challenge, but go with the Mustang Cup Mustang Challenge as well. The drivers that we're seeing making their way up through the ranks, some of the drivers maybe that we'll be seeing in IMSA in a couple of years' time.
Very much so. Yeah, you mentioned that Mustang Cup. That is the feeder series that has been developed. Last year was its very first year, and had the pleasure of getting to cover that. Joey's on that this year as well. And unfortunately, their first race was interrupted by lightning, so the drivers are itching and eager to get out there on track today and continue to race like we've been seeing here. And is it just me, or is Sufi starting to get a little bit more dangerously close to grist?
He was, and I was thinking that we would be watching the 477 go increasingly defensive up. No, Patrick's been able to pull away, and Garrett Grist now looking in the rearview mirrors over his shoulder as it's purple on the left, orange on the right for Danny Sufi's number 11 Duquesne as they rumble down the Almond Straight, run back towards Sunset Bend with now less than 15 minutes left to go. And as much as Wyatt Bricacek's leading this race, Valentino Catalano starting to cut into the gap, a couple of tenths here and there. Maybe what could have been, Joe, if the restart had gone slightly differently.
Indeed, those restarts can make or break the race. That looks a lot better for Garrett now at this stage. In fact, he's regaining a little bit on Kuyula, and could see that battle come back to him in just a moment. Catalano, who I thought was going to run away, is only about 2 seconds up the road, so he's still not completely out of the woods. So you can see him in our shots. As for the overall lead, Bricacek still hovering about 6 tenths. But I'm seeing a bunch of green on that first sector for some reason. So all the teams apparently telling the drivers it is time to pick it up.
Yeah. Track temperature may be increasing as well. The air temperature's risen once more very slightly. Great to still have Forte Racing in the IMSA paddock. Don't see them unfortunately anymore with their Lamborghini Huracan in the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. Last year, Misha Goldberg, Mario Farnbacher, and then a rotating cast of third and fourth drivers joined them in what was their last full season of competition. Still supporting Venus Engineering and Brian in the VP Sports Car Challenge, and out here, Patrick Kuyula doing a great job. Riding down in towards Cunningham with Tom Long as Jagger Jones. Yes, he is 13 laps down. Just reminding everyone of how quick he is. Fastest lap of the race, 1:57.961. Quicker than our pole time yesterday.
There's all that heritage behind Jagger. For those that are unaware, is the grandson of Parnelli Jones, obviously a big name, but for IndyCar fans that maybe get a few deeper cuts, the son of PJ Jones as well. And he's been just doing an awesome job kind of carrying on that family history and bringing himself into sports car racing, which is so cool that he has come into this and finding opportunities, especially since he kind of had a period with a year off some years ago, and he originally wanted to do NASCAR racing, was focused on ovals, and just found that the funding for that kind of dried up. And when doors opened here in the twisty track world, he took it with both hands, and I'd say he's much like his IndyCar predecessors, pretty good at both sides.
Yeah, I'd say so. And for those wondering about funding, if you think going sports car racing is expensive, well, NASCAR ratcheted up slightly in some ways. 5 seconds at the front. Still only 2 seconds between Catalano and Kuyula. I think Bricacek's managing his pace now. Doesn't have to push too hard, and the last thing he wants to do in the final 6 laps or so of the race, make an error and bring those others back into contention. Here he is, carving his way out through Jean-Guillaume in towards Le Mans. And under the brand new bridge that covers the Elman Strait as well.
Needs
Love
a
that
name.
Giving us responsibility of naming things is dangerous, though.
I'm not giving us responsibility. I'm just saying somebody needs to name it.
Good idea. I'd usually ask for suggestions, maybe throw them on social media, but that can be a topic of conversation for our IMSA radio crew in a couple of weeks' time. I have no doubt about that.
Undoubtedly. I'm just a stickler because I prefer names over corner numbers and things like that. But regardless, Catalano here still running away with this second place. He can't keep up with Bricacek, at least enough, but he's doing a good job with this one. This is Wyatt out there continuing to just plug away and doing so good to bring this one home. You talked about not being used to drivers wanting the car to be stronger at the end of the stint. This is a good argument, I feel like, for taking that approach, as the car did swirl around a little bit there under braking into turn 7. But to be able to finish strong, I think is so much better, to have a car that, should you need to push, should there be another caution per se, that you have something underneath you that you can still try to claim that win. If the car starts to go away from you, that's got to be so nerve-wracking coming to the checkers, just hoping that it can hold together.
It's not quite a 24-hour race, but you're always trying in endurance competition to build the car as strong for the run to the checkered flag at the end, when, you know, if you get the late race safety car in any IMSA competition, you know what it's going to be. An all-out brawl, a sprint to the end. Sprint, by the way, still in that fight for third. Garrett Grist got as close as 2/10 at one of our timing lines, and Patrick Kuyula once more just nervously looking over the shoulder as we wind down the laps. I think it will be, given that the lap time's hovering under 2 minutes, that should be 5 laps left to go when we cross the timing beam once again. Oh, here comes the Canadian. Great exit onto the Elman Straight, but a long way around through Elman Bend, or Sunset Bend. At the end of the Elman Straight, it's a bold place to try and make it work, and he's going to get slightly out of kilter, regather himself up, and go once more.
Love what we're seeing between these two, and it's been great respect between the pair. Yes, it's fierce racing, but again, nobody's shoving anybody off the road yet. There's no chopping happening. They're making sure that racing room has been given. But it's certainly been a thorn in the side of Garrett Grist, because he looks fast, although it's been a bit of an ebb and flow. I can't quite pick up, what's been costing him to drop off of him from time to time. Regardless, when he does catch up to them, I give him credit for really going on the offensive and trying to make something of it. It just hasn't worked yet.
These cars put out around 460-ish horsepower, weigh around 2,000 pounds, just under 1,000 kilograms. Don't have as much power to get you out of trouble if you go deep into a corner. I think something we've seen quite regularly is maybe a bit too much overcommitment into some of the braking zones here at Sebring, and drivers going a bit wide of apexes and then not having the safety net as you might in an LMP2 car to then drive off the corner. It's where you develop the instincts and therefore a bit more smooth off on the power through the corners, maybe helping the likes of Wyatt Bricacek to great effect, as once more out of Le Mans onto the even straight he will work. Blows lap 51, has re-established a 5.8 second lead. Had slowed down to the 159s for a lap or so, but the pace has picked back up. Last time by, fastest lap of the race for this car.
Indeed. Let's see if he can match that. Once again, a 58.4 personal best for Bricacek last time. 58.3. So yes, the car is getting better and better. The driver clearly feeling quite comfortable out there. So continuing to chop down. Fastest lap still belongs to Jagger Jones, though farther back in the field. So at least he'll have that feather in his cap, even if the results won't be there this race. But Bricacek clearly not slow right now, and the gap is up to about 6.4 seconds over Catalano.
Danny Supi's lost a bit more time. I wonder if the early pit stop for him, because remember, I think that was the first car down to pit lane, maybe just dealing with the most worn tires at the end of this race. Still the closest fight, the one for third. Remember, you just need two to tango, and a great fight for the final step on the podium. And what also is the battle for the Bronze Cup win here today. Remember, the top two drivers and teams, those are lineups made up of silver class drivers or silver rated drivers. Everyone else has got at least one bronze in the mix, and therefore Bronze Cup eligible. Patrick Kujala, the gold rated driver, actually is with Brian Thenis, the bronze. You can't have a platinum rated driver. Basically, you can't decide that you want to steal someone like Lauren Heinrich or someone from Porsche Penske and pull them here into the IMSA Airbnb Endurance Challenge.
There's no bushwhacking, as they call it in this series, yes. So drivers have to meet a certain threshold that they have to stay beneath to be able to enter into this. And one thing that I did love in my chance getting to meet Pat and Thenis is that they had a really good relationship. And I feel like that's so important when you're racing in team racing, is having that great chemistry that allows you to really overcome any potential issues in car setup or anything that could cause you problems. Is this car slow?
That is slower than expected, I would say. Is the left side. It's definitely slow. The gap is closing, and there goes Gebhard Motorsports. Valentino Catalano sweep past Wyatt Bricacek. Problems with 4 minutes left on the clock.
Unbelievable. Now, do we have info on when this car last pitted? Because all that I could think would maybe be some sort of fuel problem, but that's a massive miscalculation if they miss it by 2 laps here.
Well, remember that Shopify went almost 8 minutes into the race, so if it's a fuel misjudgment, it's possible. Let's see if we can get word from the pit lane. I have no doubt that Joey Atterbury is sprinting over to
He's had to head over to Podiums, actually. So we don't, unfortunately, have him. But, I wish we could find out what is happening from the team, because this is the worst nightmare to have a handy lead and suddenly the car come to a stop, or at least a slow, with just 2 laps left.
Looking at the times, it's still on track and back up to speed based on sector times, if they are to be believed. Unless it's trundling around so slowly that the sector times haven't updated just yet. No, it's still very slow. It's not even got to the end of sector 2. So you could be right that fuel issues are the cause, whatever the case is. Back on top after the penalty in pit lane, after the mandatory driver change window not going according to plan. There goes Wyatt Bricacek pulling to the side around Bishop at turn 14.
That's a bit of a dangerous spot, too. I don't know if they'll be able to keep this green to the end. Catalano finds it falling into his lap, so it's a good thing he was able to fend off Kujala and get himself some distance there, because now he is the de facto leader. And unfortunately, we have lost the 95, who have pulled off to a runoff area and may have ended us under a bit of a premature finish. I don't see them going for the yellow flags on the flag stand. In fact, they are reaching for the white flag.
I think it's pulled aside at one of those points where we can get away with it, and all the drivers are given the map of where those points are, and very heads-up driving, at least from Wyatt, maybe assisted by the team. I did shoot a message over to the team. I got an answer back. They don't know what the issue is, and that is heartbreaking. What it will mean is the other Tony Driver development car will sit on the podium. Garrett Grisson, Ari Baylog will grab third. The white flag next time by for Valentino Catalano, already with 8 wins in the VP Sports Car Challenge. He's about to become the first race winner in Airbnb Endurance Challenge history if he can hold off Patrick Kujala, who's got pit between his teeth, pedal to the metal, 1.5 seconds back with 1 lap left to go.
Last sector, it looked like it was about 0.3 quicker for Catalano. So Valentino keeping him away. I'm curious what it'll look like when they cross the line here at the start-finish to see if he'll regain some of that time. But he's going to have to cut down very quickly. 1.5 seconds is a bit far back as the white flag waves, and Catalano has one more to go to become the first winner in this series history.
It has closed a bit more, though, than the team would have liked. I'm sure Oscar Tuno sat there on the pit wall, watching and trusting his teammate, the 20-year-old champion on the 2025 IMSA VP Sports Car Challenge. He's dealt with pressure before. He's familiar with this Duquesne. Rides the curb through onto the big bend and up towards turn 7. We'll get the first of our sector times as they stamp onto the brakes here. 36.3 for the race leader, 35.7 for Patrick Kujala, 0.6 close in one sector.
Wow, that is mighty to start the lap off. He still has to make up about 3/4 of a second just to get to the back of that bright red number 1. It's not impossible, clearly. We'll get the next update when they get to the run between Tower and Bishop. Watching closely, it does look like, it's back up to 1.3 now on the Tower, so it seems as though Catalano is responding.
One of those micro timing updates. We'll get the official sector time as they pass by the stricken 95. Wyatt Bricacek sat there and thinking what could and should potentially have been. No dramas though for Catalano as he exits out of Le Mans and onto the Ulman Straight. What an interesting opening round in the IMSA Airbnb Endurance Challenge. While we wait for the debuts of our M2 CS BMWs in May at the Circuit of the Americas, the LMP3s let loose to run around Sebring, and what an interesting race it was. Yes, a penalty held them back, but you can never count out Gebhard Motorsports, Oscar Tuno, Valentino Catalano, the first race winners in the IMSA Airbnb Endurance Challenge.
A phenomenal race all around, especially from all of our podium finishers. Kept in it until the end. They got shaken up with that restart, and everybody was on it from the word go. But man, we couldn't have asked for better. We didn't have any intercar accidents. There was only that one caution, thanks to a car coming to a halt, and otherwise it was mean and green.
And now I can't wait till May. I can a little bit though, because in a couple of weeks' time we'll all descend once more on Sebring for the 74th running of the 12 Hours of Sebring, the mobile one, 12 Hours of Sebring. And what fun that will be. We'll send Joe and Joey down to our podiums to celebrate, not just with Gebhard and Tuno and Catalano, but with Forte Racing, Patrick Kujala and Ryan Thenas, the Bronze Cup winners today, and fending off the challenge from Tony Driver Development and Garrett Griston and Ari Baylog on their return to IMSA competition. It was great to see the competitiveness in the final run to the checkered flag after our sole safety car about 75 minutes into the race, after Fast MD with Remstar unfortunately ground to a halt on pit exit. Sun shines. Some of the guests at the Sebring 7 Hotel, I'm hoping, enjoying this race with a poolside view as well. I had the privilege of staying there last year at the Sebring 7 Hotel, and was very cool. Going to sleep with the track light still on, and then waking up and walking over to grab a glimpse of the track by the pool, drive over that bridge into the paddock and towards that podium where we are about to celebrate. Danny Sufi and Jake Williamson, I think they'll be pretty happy with how things fared for them. Jake getting more and more comfortable with the car. Danny maybe having a bit more worn tires at the end that held him back, but nevertheless showing us that he's a contender all the way to the end. And then the last car that will be scored on the lead lap, Travis Hill, that small spin onto the Omen straight out of Le Mans. Cost him some time, yes, but strong showing from both him and from Nicole Havrada's Shopify Racing build. Hopefully the next generation of Canadian competitors that we'll see in IMSA competition. Mike Brikacek is going to be classified as 2 laps down alongside of Lincoln Day. One small off at turn 3 for Lincoln, but some good speed from him. And then Wyatt, the consistency, but maybe nursing an issue in those latter stages before grinding to a halt. Tom Long for Forbush Performance alongside of Matt Forbush as well. Their scored as 3 laps down. They were already a lap down when we restarted the race and then had a drive-through penalty. That did not help them either. Some good pace from Tom Long, building up the car. First time we've seen Forbush Performance with a prototype effort in IMSA competition after a few pilot challenge starts. And last but not least, the Fast MD with Remstar crew. Jagger Jones finishes the race as fastest lap holder, 1:57.810. Again, that is about half a second faster than our pole time from this year. Quite remarkable. Sounded like lug nut issues the second time. They had a sensor issue that saw the car limp back to pit lane in the opening stages of the race. But the even slowed down pit stop window, remember, a minimum time of 2 minutes 30, unfortunately catching them out for Jagger able to hit the track in anger. Oh, it's going to be a beautiful weekend in a couple of weeks' time when we get underway with the first of our on-track activity for this year's running of the 12 Hours of Sebring. It will all begin on the Wednesday and bright and early, 8:55 in the morning for Mustang Challenge practice, closely followed by Porsche Carrera Cup North America and Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America before Michelin Pilot Challenge. The first of our WeatherTech sessions, well, that is not until Thursday. 3 practice sessions for our WeatherTech drivers. We'll have a couple of races for the single make series, Carrera Cup, Mustang Challenge, Super Trofeo, before on Friday. Qualifying, of course, for the WeatherTech race, but maybe the main event on Friday, the Alan J. Automotive Network 120, the second round of the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge. Just a 2-hour race as opposed to the 4-hour season opener at Daytona. And then once that's done, still have some more racing on Friday, so don't go anywhere if you're staying outside the track at an Airbnb somewhere. And then on Saturday, green flag drops for the 74th running of the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring at 10:10 in the morning. And of course, run through into the night. I'll be there alongside Ryan Marine, John Heindorf, as part of our IMSA Radio and IMSA TV broadcast team. Now, Peter Mackay is going to be there as well, mainly because him and I are going off to play some golf in Orlando a few days before we make our way down. And hopefully the wind's a little less strong than what I see down there. Look at that American flag. It says 6.2 miles an hour, but that looks a lot stronger. That looks more like, I don't know, 15. I'm no golf magician like Bryson DeChambeau, that's for sure. Reminder, Joe Peak, Joey Atterbury, heading down to that podium area. Arjuna Kankipati in the booth. Glad to have had your company here on a super Sunday in motorsports. A super weekend as well. Enjoyed watching Formula One last night. Some IndyCar action yesterday. And of course we'll have some NASCAR action coming up shortly once we finish up here with this IMSA Airbnb Endurance Challenge. What a wonderful track this is as well. Had the opportunity when I was here last year to go around in my rental car with Brian Till, quote-unquote, coaching me. I say quote unquote because I was a bit scared to go fast, as you would do at a place like this. It's intimidating, Sebring, you know? It's a lot narrower than it kind of feels on the sim for anyone that's done a lap here on iRacing in any sort of a car. Feels a bit more like being on iRacing arcade almost. Bumper cars out of that turn 10 section as you work up toward the tower turn. I still don't understand how you can fit two cars side by side there. It boggles the mind, the confidence, bravery. Maybe there's another word to sprinkle in there. Glorious Florida day, though, that's for sure. Our drivers tired after the hot hour in the car. And now the teams left to gather up the pieces. Fortunately, not literally, but after a set of back-to-back weeks for many of them, of course, last week supporting the NASCAR racing at Circuit of the Americas and the VP Sports Car Challenge. Some of the drivers, of course, back-to-back. Means the teams, the engineers, the hauler drivers as well. Everyone that makes the operation possible. It's a chance for them to hopefully grab a couple of weeks off before we're back in May. Another endurance round, IMSA Airbnb Endurance Challenge, before another sprint round of the VP Sports Car Challenge for some of our competitors. They'll head to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car course the first week of June for the next sprint round. After that, trip to VIR for our endurance round. That will be the third week and the third round of our championship as well, June 19th through 21st. That'll be the second round for the BMW M2s, of course, after debuting at the Circuit of the Americas, May 7th through 9th. And the final of our endurance rounds takes us to America's National Park of Speed, Road America, August 14th through the 16th. Not letting our drivers off easy in terms of heat. Those are 3 humid and hot racetracks during humid and hot months. So, expecting that to be something. Let's go down, though. Joey and Joe walk us through the podiums for our first round of the IMSA Airbnb Endurance Challenge.
All right, it's time for the IMSA Airbnb Endurance Challenge Podium Ceremony. Let's celebrate with our LMP3 podium finishers, starting with third today. It's the number 30 of Ari Balog and Garrett Grist. Finishing in second today, it's the number 77 of Brian Thienes and Patrick Kuyala. And your winner, it's the number 1 with drivers Oscar Tuño and Valentino Catalano.
Well, Garrett, we'll go ahead and start with you here in third. Did a wonderful job to end up on the podium. How's the car?
Yeah, not bad. We had a bit of a soft pedal, which I think hurt us a little bit, but yeah, no, it was okay.
Congrats on that third place finish, and we'll hop on over here to second. And Brian, I'm actually going to come on over here and talk to you. You were the starting driver in it all. How did it go for you on the track today?
Signal not working? I think that's Mike's signal.
Having a lot of time with the car, and I think I gave Patrick a little bit of a run, but car sorted out. Maybe we'll do a little better. Maybe.
Awesome job. And now up to our winners. Oscar, you're the one who kind of started this thing off and then had to hand it over to your teammate over here, but it seemed like a pretty easy run, a little bit of drama towards the end, but those are the one that are standing up top.
Yeah, very happy with the result today. I want to give a big thank you to the team. It's a great effort. To my team, did a mega job. We were a bit unlucky with the drive-through. We lost some plays, but yeah, they did a mega job. We did a great strategy, and yeah, happy to be on top. And yeah, big thank you to Gephardt Motorsport.
Great job to all of our podium finishers. Everybody give it up and raise those trophies high.
All right, if you could swap out with the Airbnb hats, please. Let's grab those trophies one more time. And now, if you wouldn't mind donning those Michelin caps. Grab your trophies, please. And now you get to celebrate with a little champagne! Congratulations to our LMP3 podium. Let's give it up one more time for them.